Greetings. Before I tell this story, I would ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stories like this. And now we begin our story.
The unforgettable stadium revelation. The stadium pulsed with electric energy as Serafina Cole stepped through the gates, her heart buoyed by anticipation. Tonight was meant to be a celebration. Thousands gathered beneath a tapestry of stars awaiting a spectacle of unity and joy. Serafina had come with her best friend Lysandra Quinn, who squeezed her hand reassuringly, sharing in hopes that this night would be a happy memory to cherish. The crowd's laughter and cheers intertwined with music, forging a vibrant atmosphere that seemed to erase every shadow lurking beneath the city's surface. As the evening unfolded, Serafina's attention was caught not by the announcer's passionate call, but by an unexpected figure weaving through the crowd. Martellus Reed, a quiet but observant man known for his reliable nature, appeared beside her, eyes scanning the bustling stands. His unease was palpable, a ripple among the sea of excitement. Without words, his gaze locked on a far corner where Thaddeus Gray, Serafina's husband, lingered away from the spotlight. A subtle shift in Marcellus's demeanor sent a chill down her spine. Something was terribly wrong. Serafina tried to dismiss the creeping dread as a trick of the fading light, but her instincts screamed otherwise. The stadium's colossal screens flickered momentarily, and then magnified not the grandeur of the event, but a private moment unfolding right there in plain sight. Thaddeus was entangled in a scene no bride should witness, his hand resting intimately on another woman's waist amid a crowd of thousands. The woman's identity was unmistakable, Dorian Voss, the antagonist lurking in Serafina's otherwise calm life, whose reputation for disruption was well known. This moment was a betrayal sewn into the very fabric of her perfect evening. Aloan Lux's voice echoed from the commentator's box, her tone a mixture of disbelief and intrigue as she narrated the shocking sight. The stadium hushed as the realization spread, eyes turning toward the couple captured on the giant screens. Calix Harper, the sharp-eyed reporter covering the event live, began weaving questions into his commentary, the scandal unfolding beyond the expected thrills of the night. It was no longer just a social gathering, it was a turning point, a fracture in Serafina's carefully built world. Serafina's breath hitched, her mind racing to comprehend the betrayal so visible, so cruelly public. Beside her, Marcellus placed a steady hand on her shoulder, his support unwavering despite the chaos. He whispered truths that Serafina needed to hear. This was no accident nor misunderstanding. The threads of deceit were tangled deep, and only through shared courage could she begin to unravel them. Meanwhile, Lysandra's protective presence served as a shield, her fiery spirit promising that Serafina would not face this storm alone. As murmurs rippled through the stadium, Serafina's thoughts flickered back to happier times with Thaddeus, the promises whispered in daylight, the laughter shared in private moments. Those memories now felt like echoes from a distant past, overshadowed by the harsh glow of betrayal under the unforgiving stadium lights. Yet beyond heartbreak, a seed of resolve took root. Though her world had shattered, she would not be broken. With Martellus's eyewitness account and Lysandra's unshakable loyalty, there was a path forward, dark and uncertain, but hers to claim. The crowd around them buzzed with speculation, but Serafina tuned it all out, focusing instead on the fragile strength blossoming inside. The revelation at the stadium was a devastating chapter, but it was also the prologue to a fight for truth and justice, one that would reveal the depths of those around her, both friend and foe. Dorian's smirk on the big screen was a challenge thrown directly at Serafina's feet, daring her to respond. As Calix's voice carried on with live updates, Serafina knew that the night's spectacle had only begun, and the real drama would soon unfold far beyond the stadium's walls. With the crowd's eyes still turned toward the scandal, Serafina took a breath and steadied herself for what was next. Marcellus's presence reminded her that she was not isolated, and Lysandra's fierce gaze promised unwavering solidarity. The journey from this moment would be painful and relentless, but it was a story she was determined to own. As the stadium lights dimmed to signal the interlude, Serafina's heart hardened with a newfound clarity. The night that began with hopes of joy would end in confrontation and discovery, seamlessly leading her to the next chapter of her unfolding tumultuous reality. Confrontations and complicated loyalties. The stadium lights blinked harshly against Serafina Cole's stunned gaze, the crowd's roar now a cacophony of betrayal ringing in her ears. As Thaddeus Gray, her husband, laughed effortlessly beside another woman, Serafina could hardly breathe. The moment had erupted into viral chaos, tears streaming down her face as thousands watched the heartbreaking scene unfold live. In the swirling aftermath, a familiar figure rushed to her side. Lysandra Quinn, her unwavering best friend, wrapped a comforting arm around her shoulder, anchoring Serafina through waves of shock and heartbreak. Their bond, tested now under the harsh glare of public scrutiny, stirred powerful emotions and complicated decisions. Lysandra's voice was steady, a balm amid the frenzy. "You're not alone in this, Serafina. We will find out the truth together and face whatever comes next." Serafina's mind reeled between disbelief and the fierce spark of resolve. Despite the humiliation, she felt Lysandra's devotion breathing strength into her. Meanwhile, unseen forces darkened the unfolding drama. Dorian Voss, ever lurking at the edges of their lives, reveled in the chaos. His eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he exploited Serafina's shattered world to tighten his grip over her fate. Throughout the ordeal, his presence loomed like a shadow, complicating Serafina's path to clarity and justice. Marcellus Reed, Thaddeus's silent confidant and witness, added layers to the tension. His watchful gaze at the stadium incident told a story bruised with unspoken alliances. Though he witnessed the betrayal firsthand, Marcellus remained an enigma, his loyalties uncertain, making Serafina question the very foundations around her. As the scandal erupted, voices beyond the stadium rose in fervor. Elowen Lux, caught in the spill of emotions as a spectator and commentator, voiced poignant reflections through social media. Elowen's insightful commentary breathed life into the public conversation, drawing attention to the raw human pain behind the spectacle. Suddenly, the media's wheels spun faster with Calix Harper's relentless reporting. Calix, the seasoned reporter who thrived in uncovering stories that shook the elite, dived headfirst into Serafina's personal nightmare. His vivid coverage elevated the scandal from a personal tragedy into a cultural phenomenon. Calix's sharp interviews and behind-the-scenes revelations ramped up the pressure on Serafina and Thaddeus alike, forcing unresolved issues into the glaring spotlight. As headlines splashed accusations and heartbreak, Serafina struggled against the tidal wave of public opinion, her privacy slipping like sand through grasping fingers. Lysandra became more than a friend. She morphed into Serafina's anchor and strategist. Late-night talks bled into early mornings, covering everything from damage control to emotional survival. Lysandra's pragmatic yet empathetic wisdom helped Serafina draft a path through the labyrinth, navigating the complexities of betrayal in the public eye while wrestling with personal devastation. The question of confronting Thaddeus again hovered like a dark cloud. Serafina oscillated between rage and reluctant longing for answers, her heart a battlefield where love clashed violently with betrayal. Meanwhile, Dorian's machinations grew increasingly sinister. He whispered poison into the ears of mutual acquaintances, twisting narratives and deepening divides to isolate Serafina. His calculated moves aimed to dismantle her network of support, manipulating both media and social circles with chilling precision. In the growing storm, Marcellus found himself at a crossroads as well. His silence held dangerous power. The truth in his hands could unravel Dorian's plots or expose deeper wounds beneath the public crisis. The stakes spiraled beyond Thaddeus's infidelity into a web of secrets, power struggles, and impending reckoning. Public opinion shifted nervously as Elowen Lux's commentary brought empathy to Serafina's pain, providing a counterpoint to the scandal's sensationalism. Fans, strangers, and longtime supporters rallied with messages of solidarity, reminding Serafina that she was more than the scandal's center. Yet the relentless gaze of Calix Harper's exposés ensured that privacy was a luxury she no longer possessed. Through probing questions and relentless pursuit, Calix became a figure both feared and begrudgingly relied upon for truth. Serafina's life was no longer hers alone, but a complex narrative interwoven with many voices and agendas. Negotiating the labyrinth of emotions, support, and deception, Serafina began piecing together the fractured mosaic of her life. Lysandra helped her uncover hidden messages, subtle clues in Dorian's behavior, and Marcellus's uncertain allegiance. Each revelation pulled her deeper into a tangled reality far more complicated than the scandal that captivated the public. Yet with every painful step, Serafina's resolve hardened. The vulnerability she displayed at the stadium now became the catalyst for her transformation from a woman caught off guard into one determined to reclaim her story and power. The battle lines clearly drawn, the emotional terrain shifted beneath Serafina's feet. Clemency for Thaddeus faded. Retribution felt necessary but nuanced. Trust fractured irreparably, but clarity demanded confrontation. With Lysandra's unwavering presence and a reluctant but growing faith in Marcellus's potential honesty, Serafina prepared for the next pivotal encounter. Dorian's dark influence still cast a long, threatening shadow, but Serafina's spirit was no longer silent. The storm she faced was far from over, but her journey toward justice and self-discovery had solidified into a fierce, unyielding flame. As night deepened, Serafina stared out at the distant city lights, the echo of the stadium's betrayal still pounding in her chest. The fragmented pieces of her life demanded reassembly through truth and courage, not silence. With Lysandra's hand firmly in hers and the weight of 1,000 eyes watching, she braced for the confrontation that would either break her or finally set her free. The tangled loyalties and emerging alliances promised more than heartbreak. They heralded a reckoning still waiting beyond the horizon. And as dawn hinted at a new day, Serafina felt the delicate stirrings of hope beneath the ruins. Rising from heartbreak and finding strength. The crowd had long since dispersed, yet the echoes of the heartbreak that unfolded beneath the stadium's glaring lights lingered in the air. Serafina Cole stood quietly on the sidelines, her pulse steadier than she believed possible. Just days prior, the truth had shattered her world. Thaddeus Gray, her husband, had betrayed her in front of thousands, tangled in lies broadcast by relentless cameras and dissected by every corner of the internet. Yet here she was, clutching a fragile resolve that refused to break, nurtured by the love and unwavering loyalty of her closest allies. Lysandra Quinn's voice was a balm in the chaos, a constant reminder that Serafina was not alone in the wreckage. Lysandra's fierce protection and candid encouragement became the bedrock on which Serafina rebuilt her shaken spirit. Their late-night conversations peeled back layers of confusion and pain, unearthing a resilient core neither had anticipated. "This is not the end, Serafina," Lysandra whispered one evening, her eyes holding the promise of better days. That faith was the first spark that ignited a cautiously growing flame of hope within Serafina's heart. Meanwhile, Calix Harper's relentless pursuit of the scandal provided a double-edged sword. His reports, while exposing Thaddeus's duplicity to the world, also forced Serafina into an unforgiving spotlight. It was an exposé that no one could ignore, yet it was also a narrative she refused to let define her existence. Calix's motivations remained shadowed in ambiguity. Despite his professionalism, a hint of personal vendetta occasionally slipped through his words. Serafina pondered whether he sought justice or simply craved the spectacle of downfall, but either way, she resolved to retrieve her story from his grasp. Amidst the media frenzy, Marcellus Reed emerged as a quieter but pivotal figure. A witness to moments lost in public gaze, his support was steady and nuanced. Marcellus, once a distant acquaintance, had stepped closer as the burdens grew heavier, offering insight and a calm presence when all else seemed to spin out of control. His knowledge of the subtle undercurrents around Dorian Voss, Thaddeus's shadowy confidant, gained new relevance as patterns of deceit surfaced in conversation. With Marcellus's help, Serafina began to see the bigger picture beneath the spectacle. Elowyn Lux, a spectator-turned-commentator, added complexity from the crowd's perspective. Her viral reactions and candid reflections shaped the discourse beyond the initial shock. More than a mere bystander, Elowyn voiced what many held silent, turning public sympathy toward Serafina's courage rather than her humiliation. Her nuanced take reminded the world that empathy could rise even from viral scandal. For Serafina, Elowyn's unexpected advocacy felt like a lifeline stretching through the virtual noise. Dorian Voss, the puppeteer behind Thaddeus's public mask, strode through the scandal's aftermath with the cold detachment of a man used to manipulation. His calculated cruelty became clearer with every revelation. He thrived on control, orchestrating betrayals to cement his own power. His presence in the shadows threatened to unravel Serafina's fragile progress, yet each attempt to intimidate only steeled her resolve. Knowing the enemy's face helped Serafina reclaim her narrative, turning raw pain into strategic strength. With each passing day, Serafina wove the threads of her shattered life into a tapestry of empowerment. Her reflections led beyond grief to a profound self-discovery. She uncovered reserves of strength etched by heartbreak yet tempered by hope. Memories of the stadium's bright lights, once symbols of humiliation, transformed into markers of survival. Where Thaddeus's betrayal had tried to silence her, Serafina found her voice rising stronger, determined to rebuild not only her own story, but also a testimonial for those who faced similar shadows. The outpouring of support from friends like Lysandra and allies like Marcellus fortified her against the storms of public opinion and personal doubt. These connections became the anchors that prevented her from drifting into despair. Together, they crafted a narrative of resilience that resonated deeply within Serafina's growing circle. She realized that healing was not a solitary journey, but a shared passage threaded with empathy and understanding. As Calyx Harper continued to disseminate the saga, Serafina learned to harness the gaze directed at her. Instead of recoiling, she stepped forward into the light, shaping the conversation on her own terms. Her raw interviews and heartfelt declarations began to rewrite the script from victim to victor. This transformation rippled widely, inspiring others to confront their own wounds with courage and grace. Serafina's journey epitomized the power of vulnerability fused with determination. Looking ahead, Serafina balanced the delicate act of reclaiming her identity while confronting the remnants of past deception. The road toward wholeness remained winding, fraught with challenges and unexpected revelations. However, in the company of trusted friends, her inner compass pointed steadily toward renewal. The fractures of her former life had not erased her essence. They had reshaped it into something more profound and authentic. In this crescendo of personal evolution, the stadium incident ceased to be solely a testament to betrayal. Instead, it became a catalyst for rebirth. Serafina's saga illuminated the profound truth that even the darkest moments can birth newfound strength. Through tenacity, the embrace of community, and the courage to face painful truths, she forged a path out of despair toward hopeful horizons. Her story, once broken on a public stage, now stood resilient, a beacon for all who have known heartbreak. As the chapter closed on this tumultuous chapter of Serafina's life, anticipation swelled for what lay ahead. The narrative was no longer written by others, but authored by her indomitable spirit. Shadows would linger, yet they were no longer shadows of defeat, but contours shaping her evolving story. Beyond the heartbreak and the scandal, a fresh dawn awaited, promising not just survival, but a triumphant emergence into light. The journey toward that horizon beckoned with unspoken possibilities.